Hello everyone, my name is Patricia and welcome to my channel. This is the first video I'm making in my entire life, so please be considerate about the quality and the way I'm speaking, because I'm so not used to talk to the camera. It feels so unnatural. I'm gonna start this video and the whole series of videos from telling you a little bit more about myself. You can see my gestures because I'm nervous, and when I'm nervous I'm doing these little weird things with my hands, so sorry about that. I've recently finished my master's degree in fashion design, and I thought that there might be people out there interested in these kind of courses, or just in general curious how it looks like. And because when I was looking for some information before I started this university, I actually didn't find much information out there. So I just thought that I will share my experience with you, and I will tell you a little bit on how I went through it. I can also tell you a little bit about Polish degrees, how different it was from my bachelor degree, and I did my bachelor's in Poland. So what can you expect from fashion courses? Is it so easy as people say, that you're just like painting and like doing some drawings and you have your clothes? And I just thought it would be interesting for some of you. I can also tell you a little bit about my own experiences with coming to UK on my own, and my whole story of how I moved here, how I was also working during my whole master's, how to manage both. I would also want this to be a sort of form of discussion and sharing experiences, because especially with fashion jobs, it's so like a taboo topic. Like fashion degrees and everything that is going on after that seems to be a huge taboo for me. It feels like there's this barrier between you and the industry, and it feels so like mysterious on how are you being judged for your portfolio, like what this portfolio should even represent, like what do you need there. And the whole like idea of looking for jobs or internships and half year or 12 months unpaid internships is like the whole another story. You feel really alone there, like especially when you're finishing your uni, whether it's fashion or some sort of art, or even just a normal degree that not so easy to find a job. You just get really depressed and you feel really alone, and you feel really unwanted when you're applying for 5th, 10th, 20th, 30th job, and you're sending your portfolios and your CVs and you're like, no responses. As I've just finished my uni, I will hopefully get you guys through the whole process of me looking for jobs and maybe hopefully finding one. Overall, I just feel like it's really depressing, and it feels like you're just not good enough, or there's something wrong with you or your portfolio if you're not getting this job straight after, or if you don't have so-called rich parents that would pay for you to live for next year or two doing unpaid internships just to have them in your CV and hoping that you would get a job after. And if you don't have this kind of opportunity, you're on your own. Most of us cannot really afford to go for a full-time internship that is unpaid. Let me tell you a little bit more about the story of fashion design in my case. I personally have always been this kind of person who is kind of good in everything on the exactly same level, but I didn't have this one specific thing that I was really good at. Like, I don't know if you can relate to it or not, but you know these people who are like at the age of 12 or 10 or 15, they already know that they are going to be doctors, or they're going to be lawyers, or anyone else, and they just like they sacrifice their whole life and their education, everything. Like they have this agenda, that's it, I am going for it, I'm going to be a doctor. So I've never been this kind of person. I never knew like what I would like to do in the future. So maybe let's start from Polish education. So it's not like in UK, you don't actually have such thing as college. You go from high school to university. So when you're 15, you finish your secondary school, although right now the system has changed, there's no secondary school, but when I was like at this age, it was like that. So when you're 15, you kind of need to declare yourself a little bit on what kind of subjects you want to learn the most, let's say. So it's a bit like in college, you need to specify your subjects. In our case, you still learn all of them, like all of the other ones, but you will have majority of your time, majority of your lessons in like specific area. And the most popular high schools have specific profiles of each class. So let's say you have a kind of low, which is like social low kind of thing, where you have Polish, you have history, maybe geography, I think, and something like social studies. Then you have the maths and physics, which is for people who would like to be studying some sort of engineering, for example, or IT. There you have something like languages, where you have, I don't know, 2 or 3 of them. So you have specific profiles in like general high schools. And when I was thinking about it back then, I would probably go for this social / geography one, because I've never felt strong in maths or physics, so this one was a no. There's also chemistry and biology for like medicine future, let's say. So that's also a no. Like I knew it, like I wouldn't feel good about it. I could learn it, but I just didn't feel strong in it. And then I had this idea, because I've always liked to draw. When I was a child, I was always sitting drawing some sort of like comics, like, you know, stories. I don't know if there's such thing here as well, like there was something called Barbie magazines, or like Princess, where you had all the Disney princesses, like magazine and stories about them. So I would literally sit down and like redraw them. So I thought that I'm gonna just check art high schools, and there is such thing in Poland. Like there are specific high schools in like larger cities that are mainly about art, like they are focused on art. So like as you go to maths and physics, or you go through biology and chemistry, there are high schools specifically for art subjects. So I was actually looking up to see what's going on. I went to an open day with my mom, and it was like, I don't know, 40-50 kilometers from my little town. And then there was a day of exams, so I decided to go for this exam. And I passed, and I decided to go to art high school. And the interesting thing is that I was 16 back then, so I was quite young, let's say, because most of the people were not coming from this specific city. We had 2 options. We could either travel each day, or we could go to something like a dorms, like a student hall. I don't know how to exactly translate it, because I don't know if there's such thing in England. There's something called boarding school, right? So we could actually call it this way, because we would live there, but it's not like a dorm. It's not like parties or whatever all the time. I mean, of course there are parties, but you have actual like teachers who are watching you when you live there. So we would live like 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 girls in one room on like bunk beds, and that was a bit crazy, but yeah. And we had meals there, like 3 meals a day, as let's say. We had like school really close to that building, like 5 minutes, and I met my best friends there. So the whole story of like boarding school is another chapter, but you can choose your specialization, your faculty, your whatever, like your major subject during this art high school. You obviously still have maths and physics and chemistry, but on top of that you have painting, sculpture, and all of these kind of classes, which takes you a lot of time, like way more time than normal high school. So I had my faculty, my major, in something called art textiles. There were two options. We could have chosen photography or this textile art. So I actually chosen textile art, and I cannot say I was really into that. I had a lot of issues with my teachers in first place. But me back then and me right now, it's like two different people. So maybe I can tell you a little bit about it in the future, of like how I used to be in times of high school and before. Like it was my bad time, like in terms of my attitude and like being really rebellious. Like it was not my time. So I finished this high school. I was actually like, after a year or two, I feel like I've changed my mentality a little bit, and I decided to take care of myself and start learning basically, and I did. And that's how I actually started to choose my universities. And I had no idea. I was so fed up with like all this painting and sculpture, because that was not really my thing. I had to learn it, but it was never really my thing. So when I was like choosing what I could potentially study, I had this idea: I'm not going to university, I'm gonna take a gap year, I'm gonna think about it, I'm gonna go to work, save up some money, I don't know. I've always wanted to go to UK, but I knew at that point financially it would be absolutely impossible for me. So I remember we finished and we had actually kind of double exams. It's not like just final exams overall that every high school has. We also had something like a diploma, which was from history of art, with like from painting, and like it was a lot of work. Like honestly, for a final year it was super stressful. It was like my mental health and everything that was going on with me back then, I don't really feel like it was a good year for me. So I decided to try fashion design and costume design, because I thought that it was quite close to me, like to what I was doing in high school at that time, but it wasn't so close. It just was something different and refreshing and intriguing for me, but I wasn't like 100% sure. So I also applied for economy. I also applied for something like international management or whatever. Like I also applied for things like that. And for art degrees in Poland, you don't have such thing as portfolio only and personal statement. You actually have exams. University that I've chosen had two exams. First was it's something like a portfolio, but more of a painting and drawing type of thing. So you literally come there with your works, with your paintings, and you show them to the jury, to the people who are going to judge you for that, like professors. And they ask you questions. They will kind of test your general history of art knowledge. I got a quite good amount of points, I believe. And then because I also applied for another course, it was actually the costume design in another city. But what they are doing there, it's actually really frustrating, because they usually have these exams in exactly same time. Like the uni I was applying to and all of the other art unis in Poland would have the exams in the same day, which literally gives you this kind of like, it actually takes away the opportunity for you to apply for multiple courses. And if you fail and if you don't get in, you just don't get in, which is really frustrating. Of course, you can go through clearing later, like in September, and apply for other courses, but usually not the ones you actually wanted. So when I got my dates of exams and I figured that I have the same date, in this other uni we didn't have this first part of like portfolio, it was just a physical exam, and I will tell you about it in a second. So I decided to go for this one because I already knew how many points I got. I felt a bit more secured about it, so I went for this one. I went for exams. I can also talk a little bit more about how these exams looked like and what does it actually mean, exams for art unis in Poland. And I got in. When I saw that I actually got in, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. Like, everyone was telling me, just try it, like, see this uni experience, like, just go for it, you can always quit. Like, there's one great thing about studying in Poland is that you don't pay for it. So it's not like here, if you go for a uni and you decide that this course is not for you and you want to try all over again, you just wasted, like, I don't know, £8,000 or something. In Poland it's for free, so that's actually amazing, and I think it's really underappreciated. So I started my uni and I actually liked it. It was exciting, it was really new for me. Like, I've met a lot of great people there, and I can tell a little bit more about like what was actually going on later. But when I was on like my second and third year, like between second and third year, I was doing my internship in one of the Polish companies. And I remember thinking to myself that I don't mind this job. I don't mind sitting there and doing all the things that they are doing. But I also thought to myself, I don't think I want a future like that for myself. Like, I don't want to stay here. I don't want to work like that, basically. And I also knew that degrees in Poland, after bachelor, your master's is basically like the same thing. Like, you have the same teachers, almost the same subjects, like there's nothing really new about it. So it's like they're just continuing your bachelor's for the next 2 years and you're doing another collection. That's what it is. And I thought, I just don't want that. I just didn't want it, because I felt like I've already taken basically everything I could have from that uni. Like, I know what's going on, I see these people, I know who's teaching them. I had a lot of thoughts about who is actually teaching us and professors in universities, but it's also another thing to talk about. And I just thought, I'm gonna apply for Erasmus. And I actually managed to get into one of the Paris universities. But then I realized, okay, you're going for 1 semester or maybe 1 year, luckily, but you're still coming back here and you're still finishing your master's here. And I really didn't like that. So I just decided to try applying for degrees abroad. And I thought about Scotland in the first place, because I remember when I was searching for degrees earlier or like looking at universities, I've always been in love with Scotland and the way it looks like, and I thought, oh my lord, like I would love to live there. And I was searching through like degrees and masters, and they were way cheaper than here in London, so I was like, oh, that's great. And I actually knew someone who was studying there, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna message this person and see like what are her thoughts about this degree. And the response was not really what I wanted to hear, but that's what I heard. That I should not do it. Like, everyone who's finishing the degree, like the bachelor's degree there, is not actually continuing the degree for masters. They are just going to London or somewhere else, because there's no industry and you can't really find a job. So when I heard it, I was really discouraged. I thought, that's not why I want to go abroad and spend all this money and have no opportunities. So then I realized, okay, so I'm gonna actually look at this London. And I don't know why I had this huge kind of thing about being against London. Like I knew that London is really expensive, it's really crowded, it's really overpriced, and that terrified me because I knew that I was going to work anyway, but the idea of like supporting myself in this kind of city, and when I saw these prices, like, you know, 500-600 pounds per month for a room, when in Poland I paid it in like Polish currency, like I paid 600 zloty, which is like 120 pounds maybe. That's just crazy, you know, like the differences. For me, it was like, I don't know how long I'm gonna have to keep saving money to even go there. Like, it was just unreal, like, for me at that point. But at the same time, I was like, this is my best opportunity. Like, I can try at least. Like, I didn't really think I could make it because you need to go through not only portfolios, but you need to go through IELTS exam. I was just terrified. But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. I remember I went to Germany with my friends to work over summer, because that's what we do in Poland. If you don't know, many people for holidays go abroad because you have higher salaries there and you can save up money for the rest of your year. And I was like, I'm gonna just keep this money and I'm gonna invest them in English course. And I'm gonna try. And I remember my parents were not, like, my mom was not really encouraging at that point. She was like, oh my god, it's so expensive, I don't know if you should, blah blah blah. But I did anyway. I went for this course. Yeah, like, long story short, I can also talk a little bit more about that. So I managed to get into 2 universities in London, and I've chosen one. And yeah, there's the whole story of like me getting here and starting my course. And I can already tell you that I've started as a student of, it was called the course like 1 year masters plus 1 year professional placement, because that's quite common in fashion degrees, that you have a normal 1 year of masters and you can just finish, or you can go for 1 year placement, which I felt at that point that would be great because, you know, experience. But I didn't end it like that, and that's the whole another story of like why. So yeah, and that's how I started my university here. Anyways, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can message me down below. I will for sure respond to your comments. And thank you so much. See you next time.